Michael rose before dawn as he always did. The quiet hours before sunrise belonged to him alone. Time to arrange his world neatly before anyone else could disturb it. He padded across the kitchen floor in socked feet, humming faintly, as if to mask the silence that otherwise pressed against the walls. The skillet hissed to life, eggs cracking cleanly, toast sliding into the machine with precise movement. Everything about him suggested calm order, the kind of man whose life appeared free of chaos. Anna stirred upstairs, unaware that her husband had already planned the rhythm of her morning. He believed routine was love. Breakfast ready, coffee warm, the table set as if he were staging a photograph of domestic happiness. To anyone watching, Michael was devoted. Yet beneath his steady gestures lived something harder to place. Attention, as though every movement kept a darker current restrained. "Morning." Anna's voice drifted in. Soft but edged with sleep. Michael turned, smile practiced, warm enough to pass. "Morning, love. Sit, it's all ready." She brushed her hair back, watching him from the doorway. "You never let me help." "You deserve to be cared for," he said, sliding a plate toward her. "That's what husbands do." The words hung heavy, sounding like affection, but weighted with finality. Anna lowered herself into the chair, glancing at the food, the symmetry of fork and knife, the exact pour of juice in her glass. She reached for his hand. "You're always so calm. Doesn't anything shake you?" Michael's eyes met hers, and for the briefest second the mask faltered. A flicker, quick, unspoken, and gone. "Nothing worth worrying about," he answered, squeezing her hand before releasing it. The room filled with the smell of toast and coffee, but underneath it lingered something colder, a silence Anna couldn't name. He spoke little as they ate, returning to his familiar quiet, his controlled breaths. Upstairs, his phone buzzed once on the nightstand, unseen, unanswered. Michael's gaze shifted almost imperceptibly toward the ceiling. Then back to Anna, his smile returning like a curtain pulled over a window. "Eat. Anna, you'll need your strength today." The words were ordinary, caring even. Yet something in his tone left her unsettled, though she forced a smile in reply. Outside, the morning sun broke clean and golden. Inside, a shadow remained unspoken. The sunlight that had spilled across the breakfast table hours earlier seemed like a lie now. By late afternoon, Anna sat alone in the living room, eyes drifting toward the ceiling where Michael's phone had buzzed that morning. She had wanted to ask him then, but the certainty of his smile had pressed her back into silence. It was always like that, his composure overwhelming her doubts, convincing her that she was imagining shadows where none existed, yet the shadows grew. Michael had been coming home later these days, his explanations wrapped in vague words about deadlines and meetings. When Anna tried to follow the thread of his excuses, it always unraveled into nothing. Small scar on his wrist caught her attention one evening as he rolled up his sleeves. She asked about it lightly, but his response had been almost too swift, too rehearsed. Just a kitchen accident. Still, she lay awake at night replaying his answers in her head. The silences between them expanded until they felt like walls. She wondered if her loneliness was her own making, or if Michael had carefully constructed it for her. "Michael," she said one evening, her voice breaking the quiet as he loosened his tie. He glanced at her with polite attention. "Yes, you've been different. Absent, even when you're here." He laughed softly, crossing the room to kiss her forehead. "Anna, you worry too much. You know how work is. It's not just work. The phone calls, the late nights, that scar." He placed a finger to her lips, smile unwavering. "Stop looking for problems. I've given you everything. Isn't that enough?" His charm felt like a cage. She wanted to argue, to push back, but the warmth in his tone made her feel guilty, even foolish. She nodded, swallowing the protest that burned in her throat. Later, as he showered, Anna stood at the edge of the bed, staring at his jacket draped over the chair. She traced the seam of the pocket, tempted to reach inside to search for some tangible truth. But fear held her hand still. The house smelled faintly of soap and steam when Michael emerged, humming as though nothing had been said. He kissed her cheek, slid into bed, and fell asleep with unsettling ease. Anna lay awake in the darkness, eyes wide, the sound of his steady breathing beside her. Her fingers twitched, aching for evidence, for something that would prove she wasn't unraveling into paranoia. She promised herself she wouldn't check his things, and yet the thought gnawed at her. Somewhere in the quiet, she knew the truth was waiting to be found. The night stretched on in restless silence. Anna lay beside Michael, his breathing deep and steady, while her own heart thundered in irregular bursts. Sleep never came. Instead, her eyes kept drifting toward his jacket, still draped over the chair where he had left it hours ago. The promise she had made herself earlier, not to check his things, dissolved into nothing. Her body moved before her mind could stop it. Bare feet on the floor, careful steps across the carpet. She reached for the jacket, fingertips brushing the smooth fabric, heart pounding so loudly she feared it would wake him. Slowly, she slipped her hand into the inside pocket. Her fingers caught on something stiff, folded. She pulled it free. The photograph felt like it carried weight beyond its size. By the dim glow of the lamp, she unfolded the worn edges. Her breath caught. The young woman stood in a white wedding dress, smiling radiantly. Beside her, Michael, younger, sharper around the eyes, but unmistakably him, in a dark suit holding her hand with a familiarity that crushed Anna's lungs. The room tilted. Anna pressed a hand to her chest as though to hold herself together. No. The word escaped her lips in a whisper, fragile and trembling. This can't be real. Michael stirred slightly, rolling onto his side. Anna froze, clutching the photograph to her chest until his breathing steadied again. She slipped from the room, needing distance, needing air. In the hallway, under the harsh white light, she studied the image again. The woman's beauty was undeniable, her smile alive in a way Anna's hadn't been for years. The gown, the flowers, the unmistakable ring, all proof that this wasn't some fleeting romance. This was marriage. Her mind raced, fragments of memory rearranging themselves with brutal clarity. The late nights, the phone calls, his dismissal of her questions, the scar he had explained away so quickly. Each detail became part of a larger puzzle, one she could no longer ignore. She returned to the bedroom door, staring at Michael's silhouette under the covers. The man she had shared her bed with, her life with, was a stranger draped in a familiar skin. Tears welled, but anger simmered beneath them. Her marriage vows replayed in her head, each word now tasting of betrayal. She pressed the photograph flat against her palm, as though the pressure could erase it, could force the truth back into silence. But the woman's face refused to fade. Anna whispered to the empty hallway, her voice breaking, "Who are you, Michael? And who is she?" The unanswered questions dug deeper into her chest than any knife could. By the time the first light of dawn spilled across the floorboards, Anna knew she could no longer sit in silence. The photograph was not just evidence. It was a beginning. Somewhere, this woman existed. Somewhere she might still breathe, still watch, still remember Michael not as Anna's husband but as hers. And soon, Anna would have to find her. Anna couldn't let the photograph rest. Days passed with the image burning in her pocket, folded and unfolded until its edges began to fray. At night, she would lie awake staring at Michael's back, his steady breathing like the ticking of a clock counting down to her breaking point. Finally, when his routine pulled him into another late meeting, Anna reached for her laptop. The search was desperate at first, fingers trembling across the keys. But once she typed in his name, Michael Hale, and paired it with fragments she saw in the photo, the results began to surface. Old wedding announcements, an archived article in a small-town paper, a name that hit like a blade. Rebecca Lane Hale. Anna clicked. The woman from the photograph stared back at her from a frozen headline, smiling, radiant, her arm wrapped around the man who now slept in Anna's bed. The article described a marriage nearly 15 years earlier. The words "no official divorce records available" made Anna's skin crawl. The next evening, Anna drove. She didn't tell Michael. She didn't even tell herself the truth about what she was doing. But her hands carried her to the address she had found attached to Rebecca's name. The house was worn, its paint peeling, its garden left to weeds. Anna hesitated on the porch before knocking. When the door creaked open, Rebecca appeared, older now, but still carrying the face from the photograph. Lines etched her expression, but her eyes were sharp, watchful. Rebecca's voice was brittle. "You're his new one, aren't you?" Anna froze. I don't understand. Don't lie." Rebecca stepped into the light, her figure lean but taut with anger. I was his wife. I thought I was free of him. Clearly, I was wrong. Anna's chest tightened. He never told me. I didn't know. Rebecca laughed, bitter and jagged. Of course you didn't. He's always been good at lies. Good at making women believe they're the only one. The two women stood in silence, the weight of betrayal binding them. For Anna, it was shock, a crack in the foundation of her life. For Rebecca, it was confirmation, a scar reopened. Anna whispered, "What did he do to you?" Rebecca's eyes darkened. "Everything he's doing to you now, and worse." The words carried venom, but also a strange solidarity. Anna realized then that she wasn't alone in her confusion. Rebecca knew the truth of Michael, a truth Anna had only begun to taste. Rebecca leaned closer, her tone low, dangerous. "You think you're his wife, but you're just the next chapter in a story he writes in blood and silence. I won't let him do it again." Anna stepped back, shaken. The photograph had brought her here, but what stood before her was far more dangerous than paper evidence. As she drove away, Rebecca's final words echoed in her ears like a warning and a promise. "I'm not finished with him." Rebecca's warning haunted Anna, but it was Rebecca herself who carried it forward. Days after their meeting, she began appearing on the edges of Michael's life like a shadow, refusing to be dismissed. From across the street, parked in an old sedan, she watched him leave for work. From the corner booth of a diner, she tracked his movements with the quiet precision of someone who knew him too well. Michael, ever poised, sensed it. His polished exterior rarely cracked, but Anna noticed the shift. A pause too long at the window before drawing the curtains. A glance over his shoulder when they walked through the market. The small tick in his jaw when his phone buzzed. His control was slipping piece by piece. Narration drifted back to Rebecca's memories, the way he had once spoken with gentle authority that made disagreement feel like betrayal. How he would turn her doubts into foolishness, her anger into guilt. He had mastered the art of shaping truth, until she believed his lies more than her own instincts. He hadn't just loved her, he had consumed her. "Michael," Anna asked one evening as they sat in the dim living room, the television humming low, "why do you keep checking the window?" His eyes, steady but sharp, flicked toward her. "Do I? You're imagining it," she frowned. "No, I've seen it. You seem unsettled." Michael leaned close, brushing her cheek with his hand, smile calculated. "Anna, you mustn't let your mind wander down dark hallways. There's nothing there but shadows." The words soothed on the surface, but underneath they pressed her into silence, just as they had once silenced Rebecca. Outside, Rebecca sat in her car, watching the glow of their house. Her breath fogged the glass as she whispered to herself, voice trembling with anger and purpose. "He doesn't get to rewrite me again. Not this time." Nights grew heavier. Footsteps echoed in hallways where no one should be walking. Anna awoke once to the faint rustle of the curtains, convinced she had seen a figure in the yard. Michael's breathing beside her was too even, too controlled, as though he were pretending to sleep. In those fleeting moments, when Anna caught his gaze across the table, or in the reflection of a mirror, she saw it, not love, not safety, but something colder. Secrets in his eyes, sharpened by fear of being exposed. And though he held her hand with practiced warmth, Anna could feel the tremor beneath his calm. Michael was no longer just hiding from Anna. He was hiding from someone who refused to disappear. Rebecca's presence became impossible to ignore. She wasn't content to linger in shadows anymore. One late afternoon, Anna found her waiting near the grocery store lot, leaning against a battered car, cigarette in hand. The sight made Anna's stomach twist. She could have walked away, pretended not to see, but her feet betrayed her. The two women stood in the fading light, caught in the same storm but fighting on different sides. Anna's heart still clung to the image of her husband, the man who had once whispered promises in the quiet hours of their marriage. Rebecca carried only scars and fury, her words sharp enough to cut through Anna's fragile defenses. "Don't look at me like I'm some ghost," Rebecca said, flicking ash to the ground. "You wanted the truth. Here I am." Anna's voice trembled. "You're asking me to destroy my life, to believe everything I've built is a lie." Rebecca's laugh was bitter. "I'm not asking. I'm telling you, that man you share a bed with, he's not who you think. He's poison dressed in charm. He ruined me. He'll ruin you." Anna shook her head, tears pricking her eyes. You don't understand. He's kind to me. He takes care of me. He controls you, Rebecca snapped, stepping closer, eyes burning. That's what he does best. He makes you mistake his chains for devotion. Haven't you noticed how small you've become? The words struck deep. Anna thought of the nights she had swallowed her doubts, the mornings she had forced herself to smile through unease. Yet still, the image of Michael's gentle hand brushing her cheek lingered, confusing her heart. Narration carried the weight of her conflict, fear pulling her toward Rebecca's truths, loyalty dragging her back to Michael's lies. It was as though her soul had been split in two, each half demanding she choose a side. Rebecca's tone softened, though her anger simmered beneath it. I stayed silent once. I let him twist me until I didn't recognize myself. Don't make the same mistake. Anna looked away, voice breaking. And if you're wrong? Rebecca crushed the cigarette beneath her heel. I never am when it comes to him. The tension between them thickened until Anna could barely breathe. She stepped back, retreating toward her car, Rebecca's stare burning into her like a brand. As Anna drove home, her mind replayed every word, every warning. Michael greeted her at the door with his practiced smile. But now it seemed like a mask too carefully fitted. And for the first time, Anna wondered what would happen when the mask finally cracked. Anna's unease had thickened into dread by the time Rebecca forced her way into their lives again. It was evening, the house heavy with silence. Michael had just poured himself a glass of whiskey when a sharp knock rattled the front door. Anna moved to answer, but Michael's hand shot out, stopping her. His jaw tightened as though he already knew who it was. Rebecca stood in the doorway, her eyes wild, her figure taut with fury. We need to talk, she said, voice sharp as a blade. Michael's smile was thin. You shouldn't be here. Neither should you, Rebecca shot back, stepping inside before Anna could react. Not in this life. Not in this house. Not with her. Anna froze, trapped between them as the air grew electric. She could see Michael's mask straining, his carefully curated calm bending under the weight of Rebecca's presence. Leave, Michael said, his tone low, controlled. Whatever fantasy you're clinging to, it ends now. Rebecca's laugh was raw, jagged. Fantasy? You married me, Michael. You promised me forever. Then you buried me alive and replaced me like I was nothing. But I'm still here. The whiskey glass shattered against the wall, fragments scattering across the floor. Anna flinched at the sudden violence, her chest tightening. Michael's calm was gone, replaced by something darker. You don't know when to quit, he growled, stepping toward Rebecca. She met him head on, her face inches from his. And you don't know what it's like to be destroyed by the man you love. But you will. The shove came fast. His hands against her shoulders, her body crashing against the table. The sound of splintering wood tore through the room. Rebecca's scream followed, raw and unrestrained. Anna rushed forward but froze as she saw Michael's fist curl, his knuckles striking Rebecca's jaw. Blood splattered across the floorboards, bright against the pale wood. Rebecca spat crimson, eyes blazing. That's who you are, she hissed, her voice breaking but unyielding. Show her. Show her the monster you've always been. Michael's chest heaved, his breath ragged. For a fleeting moment, Anna saw it. The crack in his mask, the predator lurking beneath the man she thought she knew. Anna, he said suddenly, turning toward her, voice softer, desperate. Don't listen. She's unstable. She's dangerous, but Anna couldn't move. She stood frozen, staring at the broken glass, the blood dripping from Rebecca's mouth. The way Michael's hand trembled, though his face tried to hold control. The silence that followed was heavier than the screams. Rebecca pushed herself up, wiping blood from her lips, and her smile was terrifying. You can't stop me, she whispered, steady despite the wound. I've survived you once. I'll destroy you this time. Michael's mask was broken now. Shards scattered across the floor like the glass around their feet. And Anna knew, with terrifying clarity, that neither of them would stop until one was gone. Rebecca did not retreat after the bloodied clash. If anything, she grew stronger, her rage sharpening into something colder, more calculated. What had once been pain transformed into purpose. She stopped showing up unannounced, and instead moved like smoke through the edges of Michael's world, impossible to grasp, impossible to ignore. At first, Michael tried to laugh it off, telling Anna that Rebecca's intrusion was nothing but desperation. But his confidence frayed with each passing night. He began double-checking locks, shutting blinds with quick jerks of his hands, flinching at the faintest sound outside. His perfectly constructed life had become a fortress under siege. Rebecca's warfare was meticulous. Anonymous notes slipped under their door, silent phone calls in the dead of night where only her breathing lingered on the line. Once Anna opened the mailbox to find a photograph of her and Michael at their wedding. The edges marked with red pen, a circle around Michael's face, a slash across his smile. Anna trembled as she held it, but Michael ripped it from her grasp. "She's trying to scare you. Don't give her what she wants." But Anna noticed the sweat on his brow, the quickening of his pulse as he shoved the photograph into the trash. Rebecca was everywhere. She followed him to work, to the bar where he pretended to unwind, even to the park where Anna once jogged alone. He could feel her eyes on him, burning through the back of his skull. One night, Anna caught Michael pacing the hallway at 3 a.m., a knife clutched in his hand. "Michael," she whispered, "what are you doing?" He spun, eyes wild. "She's out there." "I know she is. I can feel her watching." Anna's voice shook. "You're scaring me. She's the one you should fear." He snapped before lowering his tone, forcing a smile that looked more like a grimace. "I'll keep you safe. I won't let her near you." Yet it was clear safety was unraveling thread by thread. Rebecca escalated further. Tires slashed. Windows rattled with thrown stones. And always the message was the same: "I am still here." Michael's paranoia deepened into obsession. He began recording every sound, every shift in the house. His eyes darted constantly, searching for shadows. Anna saw the man she married shrinking into something unrecognizable, stripped of the calm mask he once wore so easily. And Rebecca's voice, carried once through the phone line, sealed Anna's dread. "You can't cage me, Michael. You can't erase me. I'll be the shadow you choke on until you're nothing." Anna held the receiver long after the call ended, her hands trembling. For the first time, she wondered not just what Rebecca wanted from Michael, but what she herself might become if she kept standing in the middle of their war. The house no longer felt like home. Locks clicked shut, curtains stayed drawn, and every creak of the floor made Anna's heart jump. Yet within the suffocating fear, a strange clarity began to form. Watching Michael unravel, she realized he was not the protector she had once believed in. He was the one caged, haunted by Rebecca, and she was caught between them, no longer powerless, but standing at the fulcrum of their war. Narration traced her nights, lying awake beside him, listening to his restless muttering, his fists clenching even in sleep. She thought of Rebecca's eyes, burning with fury but also with freedom. Freedom from Michael's spell, freedom to confront him without fear. Rage had carved Rebecca hollow, but it had also made her strong. Anna began to ask herself dangerous questions. What if she stopped defending him? What if she stopped believing his careful lies and instead believed the truths written in his cracks? One evening, as Michael fumbled with the locks for the 5th time, she spoke softly. "She's not the only one who sees you, Michael. I see you too." He froze, key halfway in the door. His eyes flicked to hers, sharp, searching. "What's that supposed to mean?" Anna held his gaze, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "That mask you wear, it's breaking. And when it's gone, what's left of you won't scare me anymore." Michael's smile returned, brittle but insistent. "You're tired. She's gotten into your head. Don't let her poison us." But the words no longer landed as they once had. She heard the rehearsed cadence, saw the fear in his eyes. For the first time, she recognized him not as her anchor, but as prey struggling to keep control. The realization shifted something inside her. She began moving differently in the house, her steps purposeful, her silences deliberate. She no longer rushed to soothe him when his paranoia spiked. Instead, she watched, studying him the way Rebecca studied from the shadows. Description captured the change. Anna standing in the hallway, her figure still against the dim light, eyes fixed on Michael as he paced, her breath calm, her grip on the banister firm. He muttered to himself about locks and threats, while she saw clearly what he was, a man collapsing under his own secrets. The war between Michael and Rebecca had consumed them both. But Anna was no longer merely a victim caught in the middle. Something new had awakened in her, fierce and unyielding. And as she lay in bed that night, eyes open, heart steady, she whispered to the darkness. Not sure if it was to herself or to Rebecca. I won't be silent anymore. Anna's resolve hardened like steel in the days that followed. Michael's paranoia consumed him, leaving cracks wide enough for truth to seep through. He no longer resembled the composed man who had once charmed her into silence. His empire of control, built from lies, charm, and intimidation, was collapsing, and Anna knew she had to choose. Stand in the rubble with him, or step free. Rebecca lit the match. Not literally, not at first, but through the merciless exposure of secrets. She sent Anna copies of financial records, forged signatures, proof of debts and bribes hidden under Michael's name. Each document was a weapon, and Anna held them in trembling hands, feeling their weight like fire waiting to ignite. One night, the confrontation arrived. Michael stormed into the kitchen after another phone call he couldn't explain, eyes wild, veins visible in his temples. Anna stood her ground. You've lied to me, she said, her voice even. About her. About everything. His fist slammed the counter. Don't you dare take her side. I'm not taking sides, Anna replied, her tone cold. I'm choosing mine. The silence that followed was sharp, broken only by the hiss of the kettle on the stove. Michael's breathing came heavy, a predator cornered. But when Anna placed Rebecca's papers on the table, his mask finally shattered. You don't understand, he whispered, almost pleading. Everything I did was for us. To keep you safe. To keep control, her eyes narrowed. Control isn't love. It's a prison. And I'm burning it down. The fight that followed was both physical and symbolic. Shouts echoed, glass broke, and for the first time, Anna didn't flinch. She threw his lies back at him. Every secret Rebecca had exposed. Every scar he had left behind. His empire collapsed in front of her eyes. Not with quiet shame, but with fire and fury. Whether Rebecca's hand delivered the final blow or Michael simply destroyed himself in his frenzy, Anna couldn't be sure. All she remembered was the crash, the blood, the smoke, literal flames catching from the overturned candle that licked across the curtains. She dragged herself out into the night air, coughing, eyes burning, while the house they had built together roared behind her in a blaze. Rebecca's voice rang out over the crackle of fire. Now he's nothing. Now we're free. Anna stood trembling, watching the inferno consume the life she once thought unshakable. The choice was made. There was no going back. And as the flames devoured Michael's last defenses, Anna realized justice was not clean nor merciful. It was fire. The fire had burned through the night, leaving nothing but blackened beams and the acrid smell of smoke. By dawn, the house was gone, reduced to a skeleton against the pale horizon. Anna stood at the edge of the wreckage, her skin streaked with soot, her hands trembling though she no longer felt fear. What rose in her chest was emptier, heavier, the hollow weight of survival. Rebecca emerged from the shadows as the flames dwindled. Her lips still bore the scar of Michael's blow, but her stance was unbroken, almost triumphant. Together they watched the embers glow. Neither speaking at first. The silence stretched, filled only by the hiss of dying fire. Narration lingered on Anna's thoughts. Freedom and loss tangled like barbed wire. Michael was gone, his lies stripped bare, his power consumed. Yet victory felt jagged, unfinished. Justice had not arrived with clarity, only with smoke, ruin, and the unsettling knowledge that destruction was the only path forward. Finally, Rebecca spoke, her voice raw. It's over. Anna shook her head. No, it's never over. We'll carry him with us in every silence, every doubt. Rebecca's eyes narrowed, unreadable, then learned to carry it with strength. That's the only way. Anna turned to her, voice breaking. Are we allies now? Or just women bound by the same scar? Rebecca didn't answer immediately. She looked at the ashes, at the smoldering remnants of the man who had chained them both. Then she whispered, maybe both, maybe neither. Description painted them as mirror images. Two women in the gray light of morning, soot clinging to their faces, eyes hollow yet defiant. The fire behind them smoldered like a warning, smoke rising into the sky as if carrying Michael's secrets with it. Anna's chest tightened. She wanted to believe she was free, but freedom felt indistinguishable from exile. The world ahead was uncertain, and so was the woman standing beside her. They parted without promise, Rebecca walking down the road without looking back. Anna remained, staring into the ruins of her past life. The silence pressed in again, but this time it was hers to own. And as the sun climbed higher, the question lingered like smoke in the air. Had justice been served, or had a darker story just begun?